Show me, tell me questions. These are the 14 tell me questions, one of which you'll be asked at the start of the test. You do not need to demonstrate these, just describe what I'm doing in the video. Tell me how you would check that the brakes are working before starting a journey. I'd squeeze the brake pedal as I move away, make sure it doesn't pull one direction and it shouldn't feel spongy or slack. Tell me where you'd find the information for the recommended tyre pressures for this car and how tyre pressures should be checked. I'd open the glove box and find the user manual for the car, and within that I'd open the page that tells me where the tyre pressures are. I check tyre pressures in the morning when they're at their coldest. And this device here is called a pressure gauge. Tell me how you would make sure your head restraint is correctly adjusted so it provides the best protection in the event of a crash. I press the button to the side of the headrest. That allows me to lift it or lower it. The middle of my head should be in the middle of the headrest. Tell me how you would check the tyres to ensure they have sufficient tread depth and that the general condition of the tyre is safe to use on the road. So I'd use a tread depth indicator, and that would ensure that I have a minimum of 1.6 millimeters of tread depth. The 1.6 millimeters needs to be across the middle 3/4 of the tyre and around the entire circumference. There should also be no damage to the external wall. Tell me how you would check that the headlights and taillights are working. I turn the switch, one click left, then I'd walk around the vehicle and ensure that both headlights and both taillights are working. Tell me how you'd know there was a problem with the anti-lock braking system. When I switch the ignition on, all the warning lights come on, and there's the ABS light highlighted with the arrow. That should go off. If it stays on, we know there's a problem with the ABS. Tell me how you would check the direction indicators are working. I'd press the hazard warning switch below the radio. I'd get out of the car and I'd walk around checking that all 6 indicators are working, including the 2 repeater indicators situated inside the door mirrors. Tell me how you would check that the brake lights are working on this car. I'd squeeze the foot brake whilst the engine was running, and I'd ask somebody else to stand behind the car and make sure that all 3 brake lights are working. Tell me how you would check that the power assisted steering is working before starting a journey. While the engine's running, I can turn the wheel freely. It's nice and loose. When I switch the engine off, that means the power assistant steering isn't working, and you can see there how stiff it is to turn. Tell me how you would switch on the rear fog lights and explain when you would use them. So I turn the dial to the left so they're on dipped. I then press the rear fog light button. Rear fog light should be used when visibility is below 100 meters. Tell me how you would switch your headlights from dipped to main beam and explain how you'd know the main beam is on. I turn the dial on the right, one click left to put dipped headlights on. Then I'd push the left-hand stalk forward and you'll see the blue jellyfish symbol appears. That's how you know the full beam is on. Open the bonnet and tell me how you check the engine has sufficient oil. You'd open the passenger door of the car and pull the lever twice. Walk to the front of the car and raise the bonnet and take the arm to hold it in place. You identify the dipstick, you pull it out, you clean the surplus oil off it, put it back in, then take it back out and ensure that oil is in between the minimum and maximum markers. If you were short of oil, you would top it up here. Open the bonnet and tell me how you check that the engine has sufficient engine coolant. So as described in question 12, that's how I would open the bonnet. The coolant is here, and again, you make sure that the level is between minimum and maximum. Open the bonnet and tell me how you check that you have a safe level of hydraulic brake fluid. Again, as described in question 12, you would open the bonnet, use the reservoir for the brake fluid, and you'd ensure it's between the minimum and maximum marker.